ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהכל נהיה בדברו. Good morning, קהל קדוש, תזכו לשנים רבות, everybody, גמר חתימה טובה. ערב שבת קודש, פרשת האזינו, שבת שובה, מקם ביד. Today's class graciously dedicated Where's my paper? No, I have it. By the Levy, right here, family. That means Wayne, Todd, and Sara Levy. לעילוי נשמת their beloved mother, Catriela Batbela Malka, עליה shalom. יהי רצון that to the words of Torah, her neshama have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. Yesterday, we mentioned a couple of highlights about the topic of Shabbat Shuba. I'd like to perhaps continue on that topic, but adding one additional component. And this is the component of the name of the Perashah. Perashat Ha'azinu. And I do know that I left a mark yesterday in the book, but I did not fold the page. I did it in with a tiny dot, so allow me just to find this quickly. On the page is on the topic of Shabbat Shuba, right here. Shuba Israel ad Hashem Elokecha. That's it. I have it. Beautiful. Perashat Ha'azinu. Perashat Ha'azinu, as we know, it's considered one of the shirot of the Sefer. If you look at the Sefer Torah tomorrow, or you saw the Sefer yesterday, when we take it out of the Teva, of the Hechal rather, and we show it to the Kahal, you see that Perashat Ha'azinu, most of the Perashah, it's written in two columns. Three words. Ha'azinu Hashamayim ba'adabera betishma ha'ares imrefi ya'arov kamatar likhi tizal katal imbrati. 3 words to the right, 3 words on the left. The fact that this Perashah it's written that way, that means that this Perashah is different. So therefore, this Perashah, it's one shira, one of the songs, but it's a song that contains many messages for Am Israel throughout history. But at this moment, we're not going to discuss the messages yet. We are talking about the title of the Perashah. Ha'azinu comes from the word ozen, ear. So Moshe Rabbeinu is giving perhaps one of the last speeches in his life. Sefer Devarim, by the way, the whole 5th Chumash of the Torah, it's during the final 5 weeks of the life of Moshe Rabbeinu. From Rosh Chodesh Tevet, Rosh Chodesh Shevat, till Zayin Adar. 5 weeks. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, I need to give a farewell speech to my children, to Am Israel, my students. I need witnesses. So who are the witnesses? Shamayim ba'ares, the heaven and the earth. This is the title of the Perashah. So there is an interesting halacha that comes out from the Midrash Rabbah. Although we don't rule halachot from Midrashim, but at least we have the source in halacha. What is the halacha? Let me read you. Halacha, that's the opening statement. Halacha, rule. Adam Israel shechoshesh beozno, a Jew that has ear pain. earache, it's called. מהו שיהיה מותר לרפאותו בשבת? Are you allowed to heal him during Shabbat or not? That's the question. So the answer is, כל שספק נפשות דוחה את השבת. If there is a remote possibility that this person's life could be in danger, you must do what's necessary. Let's say, pikuach nefesh. Let's say, Hatzalah phone rings. Right? They don't make a decision to go or not to go. Hatzalah needs to go. Why? Because some critical medical conditions may start as something simple or basic, but God forbid could turn into something more critical. And these are a lot of the questions that I'm getting in these days. I get all types of questions, as you all know. But the last few days, we have seen an increase of people, God forbid, going through medical treatments, chemotherapy, alternative treatments, bone marrow conditions, has v'shalom, all kinds, kidney, don't ask. These are some of the questions that are coming up. So the halakha, and I say this without any hesitation, because we learned this a few nights ago, a concept that the halakha, we need to know this. The halakha doesn't look to make rulings which are difficult or impossible to follow. The halakha says there are many areas in Jewish law that you need to find a way to be more lenient than to be more strict. And there are two, I apologize for this, there are two areas in the halakha that this is written about. When it comes to health matters, okay? And when it comes to family purity. Obviously, we're not answering questions at this time. I'm talking to myself now, because I deal with this. I have questions somewhere. Questions. These are halakhic questions that we get on a regular basis. Stains on a bedika. A lady that is doing the 7 clean days checkups, or the hefsek tahara to determine the cycle into the 7 clean days of purity, and sometimes there are questions on the colors. Is the color that makes her reset the count, or maybe the color is an acceptable color, that the color means the color of the fluids that the body releases internally in the organs of the wife. And then the question is when she will go to the mikveh. You understand? So not many people are knowledgeable of this matter. Even though you work for Sherwin-Williams or Bear, that doesn't make you an expert in the colors of family purity. That's why besides learning the halakha from the book, you need to do something called shimush. You need to do on the job training for years to become familiar and to be able to answer this type of questions. And this is a great accomplishment that we had with the Kollel's graduates a few weeks ago when we made the graduation ceremony, that one of the topics that they learned was loss of dipping in the mikveh plus the loss of family purity. But guess what? They have the learning from the books, and they have some training on actuality of envelopes. So with the years, Be'ezat Hashem, they will become more knowledgeable and more seasoned. Even myself, that I consider that I do have Baruch Hashem, and I'm saying this with a lot of humbleness, great rabbinical experience. Sometimes when it comes to these questions, you need to understand that you need to make a decision, and your decision today, my decision today on this type of questions can determine the spiritual well-being of your future child. You got it? Why? Baruch? Is a sword is on my head every day. That's what's written in the holy books. That when the rabbi is going to answer these type of questions, remember the consequences. Not only on me, God forbid, but if they follow what I say, and she goes to the mikveh, and she becomes pregnant, and really the ruling wasn't the right ruling, God forbid. Believe me, I take this into consideration every time a question comes of this nature. And I get them almost daily. And sometimes more than once or twice a day. So when I have a question, sometimes I have to delegate it to a female nurse or to a rabbi like the Rosh Kollel that has much more years of life and experience in this field. So these are two areas in the halacha that the halacha says, be careful with the ruling. So comes the Midrash Rabbah and it says, Bezo makat ha'ozen, going back to the ear, says that the ear often could be the initiation of something much more dangerous. Correct? Stability, vertigo, the liquid in your ears, all these things. Blood pressure. So now you may say, Rabbi, are you giving a medical class or you're giving a Torah class? So this was the introduction from the medical and halachic perspective. Let's see how this applies to Shabbat Shuba. And why specifically this Shabbat? So the short answer is because this Shabbat, it has to do with the healing of the ear. What's the title of the parasha? Ha'azinu, listen. Listening. What is the first pasuk of the Shema? Shema. What's the meaning of Shema? Listen. Ear. Shlomo HaMelech. Shema beni musar avicha. What's the first word? Shema. When the Kohen will summon the Jewish army to go to war, what word he will say? Shema Israel. Hatem kerevim hayom lemilchama. Shema. The concept of listening. So let me ask you a question without looking at the book. I'm not able to look at the book now because the cell phone, the recorder, it's blocking the page that I'm reading. But okay, I read it before. I'm going to move you soon. Relax. He's comfortable. He wants to be close to me. Okay, relax. Okay? Now, I'm going to ask a simple question. When we do mitzvot, what does it mean? Are we listening or not listening? We are listening. If you do a mitzvah, if you got up today, you came to pray, you came to the selihot, you said berachot before you ate breakfast, you're sitting down and learning Torah, what's the common denominator between all these actions? You are listening to the Torah. You are listening to the halacha. You are listening, we are listening to Hashem. That's the listening. So let me ask you the opposite question now. When we don't do all of the above, or when we do sins, what does it mean? Are we listening or we're not listening? We're listening to the Yetzer Hara. That's a bigger challenge. Of course, that's a difference. So the question is, who are you listening to? Are we listening to a good advice, or we're listening to someone that camouflages his goodness, but his ultimate goal is for us not to listen? In other words, you remember President Bush? No, that was the father. The son. When unfortunately 9/11 took place, and he made a very powerful statement. And I think he says, either you're with us or you're against us, something like that. Something like that. I don't remember that shi'ur that day. Right. Something like that. So basically, the question is, who are we listening to? Are we listening to the good side? Are we listening to the Torah, to the Halacha, or are we listening to the opposite? Shabbat Shalom, Mark. Thank you. So it says here that what happens? What about listening to things that causes the person's pain? Nobody likes to hear things that, God forbid, may cause us pain. Correct? It's a normal reaction to have. How many times people say, if you have nothing good to say, say nothing. What does that mean, basically? You want to talk to me? I want to hear good things. If you want to tell me it's not good, don't tell it to me. Beautiful. So the question is, this Shabbat Shuba, Perashat Ha'azinu, we need to know that although it's a Shira, it's a Perasha that contains rebukes. Rebukes against the Jewish people. I'll tell you why. One, Umsa'uhu Ra'ot Rabot Besarot. Moshe is telling us that in the future, as a nation, we will have to deal with a lot of challenges and difficulties. Or, for example, talks about the isolation of the Jewish people from the citizens of the world. Anti-Semitism. That's basically what Moshe Rabbeinu is referring to. Will come a time in history that the Jewish people will have no allies. And it's happening now. Even in America. Even in the state of Florida. The governor passed a law recently to put in jail anyone who will make an anti-Semitic action or a statement or promote any type of anti-Semitism in public domains. They arrested a few people who raised the Nazi flag in Orlando, in I-4, the highway I-4. They arrested a handful of people and a couple of more elsewhere in the state of Florida. No, state law. Federal law is becoming also. But I'm not sure, maybe the federal law, it's much more ample. But the state of Florida says, we don't care. You make a statement, you publicize something, you distribute leaflets, like it happened in Boca Raton not long ago, right? Or you put a banner, even though you allege public freedom of speech, because that's incitement, that goes under the rules of hate speech, which is becoming punishable now. Again, yes. Okay, universities also. So scary. It is scary that we have now to worry or to deal with this type of situations when we thought that, we are in a comfortable setting. So the Torah reminds us. Sure, many colleges. Unfortunately, colleges today are very challenging because they are brainwashing the post-high school students with all kinds of ideologies. It's happening. And also, is the hotbed of anti-Semitism and assimilation. God forbid. To the point that there are communities, I'm telling you this for a fact, that they are trying to open up their own Jewish-oriented mindset universities to make sure that they have the proper faculty that is going to teach that subject that they are hired for, and not start bringing all kinds of the nonsense that you hear today in public forums, in the news, in TikTok, etc. It's scary. It's scary. So let's continue. So the question that he asks is that maybe by listen to the question, to this week's parasha that has a lot of rebukes but mostly warnings, may cause me pain in my ear on Shabbat. And if I have pain, I'm creating an issue with Shabbat. Because what the Pasuk says about Shabbat, Bekarat ala Shabbat, oneg. The day of the Shabbat is a day of enjoyment, is a day of pleasure, is a day of holiness. And the answer is, you are allowed to listen to the parasha because the parasha is healing to the ear and the neshama of the person. You understand the Yochab, what the Gemara, the Midrash Rabbah is saying? We began with physical pain. We move to spiritual pain. And it goes further and it says that no one, how do I say this? No one can deny the fact in life that we're living in challenging moments. Correct? At all levels. At all levels. Financial, political, assimilation, anti-Semitism, mindsets which are going back to the time of the flood and Sodom and Amorah. Okay, this is what's happening in our reality of life. You can't be oblivious to what's happening around us. It's not me talking. Just follow the news. Don't worry. Open the news. You listen. God forbid. So, halachically, guess what? We are finding ourselves, and again, I'm saying this from a very deep spiritual perspective, that in a certain extent, we are in a dangerous moment. We are. And I don't mean, God forbid, the danger of I don't want to say words, I don't want to say things. But we are. Hazak. We are. Let's call it a time of uncertainty. That's how they say it. Uncertainty. Yani, I don't know. Is the government in favor of us? Is the government against us? Is the politics beneficial for the Jewish people or are anti? And let me tell you what's going on today in Argentina. Don't ask. Forget about the inflation daily and monthly. They already had so far 120% inflation in the year. Yeah. Don't ask. Don't ask. Don't try to understand it. Yeah. Crazy. The dollar jumped to almost 800 pesos per dollar, When I was there a year ago, was 330. That means for Americans, it's very cheap. Yes. Okay? But I cannot tell you to go there because I got to give you a shiur how to go there and pay Argentinian price. Because if you show your American credit card, they charge you the dollar 125, which is the official white market currency exchange. So forget about it. There are 12 currencies. Depends on what type of business, import, export, blue market, white market, traveling market. Forget about it. But I'm going to talk about the politics. There is a new candidate. Nice fellow. And he wants to make changes. And everybody's afraid of him. I mean, the left side, the pro-communist and the leftist and the unions are very afraid of him. Because rule number one, he's going to turn the currency of peso into United States dollars. Then he says, the first country that I will visit after I become a president is Israel. And I'm going to guarantee that the embassy will be in Jerusalem. And he says, my habruta, my learning partner, is a rabbi. And I feel Jewish. And I want to become a Jew. I want to convert. He said it publicly. But the only reason I was advised by the rabbis not to convert to Judaism is, number one, Argentina has no conversions because of the Syrian edict that came from Argentina in 1935. Rule number one. Rule number two, that if I'm the president of the country and God forbid there is a matter that I need to handle, how can I respond the phone? How can I write? How can I take care of matters? So I was advised that I should not become a Jew. I should remain a righteous Gentile. And when he speaks in public, he quotes Rosh Hashanah, the Torah. He says he was called the Moshe Rabbeinu of Argentina. Not because of his Torah knowledge, but because he says, I feel like I'm taking the Jewish people out of Egypt. I'm taking the Argentinian nation out of their abyss of disasters that are lingering for years. Hispanic, Goy. Maybe Italian or maybe Spaniard. That's the bulk of the Argentinian Goim are Spaniards or Italians. 300,000. Yeah. So, yeah, no, he already won the first round, but he only got 48.5% instead of 52%. So in Buenos Aires, I think he won. And now they're going to have, after the holidays, another round. Many people say that he's going to come to America. He came to United States last week. And he said the following. They asked him, what did you do when you went to America? Did you meet with Biden? You know what he says? No. It was a 3-day spiritual trip to New York. I went to the Ohel of the Rebbe. All this is public record. That's how he talks. I went to the Ohel of the Rebbe. Then I had a meeting with South American rabbis that are rabbis in Brooklyn. And I went to 770 to pray. Milei, M-I-L-E-Y. Oh, Milei, all this sounds great. But guess what? History proves us otherwise. Sure. History proves us that it's not good for the Jewish people to be in the mouth of nations. That's the reality. And that's one of the Pesukim found in the Torah. We don't know what's going to be. One thing we know, Rosh Hashanah, Shamayim already has the answer. That's what the Pasuk says. Mi ya'aleh o mi yishafel. Who is going to become promoted in life and who is going to become demoted in life. So a lot of things are, but this is how this fellow talks. That's how he talks. He doesn't mumble when he needs to say words in Hebrew. And I know he has a Rabbi Habruta, a good Sephardic rabbi from the Syrian community, learns with him, I don't know how many times a week. Basic Torah that you're allowed to teach a Gentile. They learn Pirkei Avot, ethics of the fathers. They learn 7 Noahide laws. He learned all about the Jewish holidays to become familiar with it. And he says, I'm not becoming a Jew for these reasons. And it's in public record in the interviews. Unbelievable. So it says the opposite. It says that the Yetzer Hara many times comes and talks to the person's ears. There is a silent voice that talks to you. He talked to me today. He came home 4:30. He came to speak to me at 4:30. Early bird. He said, you went to sleep last night at 12 o'clock, 12:30. Haram, you didn't sleep 8 hours, like the Rambam says. Thank God I did not listen to him. I said, come see me next week. I'm not available today. Aseret Yemei Teshuvah, at least this week, we got to come, right? So it says that in a way, the parasha of this Shabbat, it's beneficial for the ear. That the words the Gemara writes, why there's so many things mentioned in the Talmud, in the Torah, in the Tehillim, about this concept of the ear. The Gemara writes because it's the first easiest access to the body of the person. That's why so many things are written about the ear. Don't listen to Lashon Hara. Don't listen to foul language. Don't listen to non-kosher music. Don't listen to this. Why? The Gemara says because the body absorbs the negativity through the ear. Fascinating. I want to switch the topic now. Somebody asked a question yesterday. How we supposed to feel on the day of Yom Kippur? So I mentioned in the class yesterday that Yom Kippur, it's like Purim. It's true. That's why it's called Yom HaKippurim, a day like Purim. That was what I said in the class. But later on in the day, somebody asked me, but how can you be happy in Kippur if your fate, F-A-T-E, is being determined in Yom Kippur? So the question is a good question. But there are two answers to this. There is a pasuk in the book of Tehillim that says, Gilu bir'ada. What does that mean? Rejoice with trepidation. It seems to be an oxymoron. First part of the pasuk says, Yani be happy. The other part of the pasuk, tremble. So which one do I do? Do I become happy or do I tremble? So I'm going to give you a few answers. And with this, Be'ezat Hashem will finish the class. Maybe I give you 2-3 quick halachot for today and for Mosai Shabbat. And then Sunday we wrap up with whatever time of class we have. So, number one, let's quote the Gemara from Masechet Ta'anit. It's a Mishnah actually. The Mishnah writes, לא היו ימים טובים לישראל כ15 באב ביום הכיפורים. The Mishnah writes, if I ask you a question, please tell me which are the happiest days of the Jewish calendar. 2 answers, the 15th of Av and Yom Kippur. So we already know that Yom Kippur is a day of happiness. So far so good. So Kippur is a happy day. Now, a person may ask, how could I be happy if I'm being judged? It's a great question. True. But who is judging me? My Father. Not a stranger. Not a foreign judge who doesn't know me. He sees a name and I'm just a name in a piece of paper. If my Father judges me, I'm okay. Avinu Malkenu, our Father, our King. Im kevanim, im ka'avadim. Einenu lecha teluyot. Our eyes are depending on you. The Pasuk writes, I heard this yesterday in the Shi'ur of Rabbi Rosenblum from Israel, and he quoted a fascinating Pasuk that says, Benizgav Hashem levado bayom ahu. It says, you know who judges us in Yom Kippur? Bayom ahu means Kippur, God alone. No accusing angels, no interference of any kind. Obviously, there is a file prepared for all of us. Don't kid yourself. There is a file, a folder, like you have an account in the bank, you have a social security account, you have a credit account. In Shamayim, there is a file with our name. But when it comes to make that determination, God says, thank you for delivering the file. Wait outside. I'm going to make that decision. And that makes Yom Kippur in a day of happiness. Why? Because if my Father is the one deals with me, how does the Pasuk says, how the song says, Kerahem abal banim, ken rahem alenu. Like a father has mercy on his son, like a mother has a mercy on her child, Hashem has mercy on us. And Hashem has male and female aspect. We discussed this a while back. So, guess what? I'm entering into Yom Kippur with a peace of mind. But because I don't know what's going to be the outcome, I need to go slow. I need to pray. I need to have thoughts of teshuvah. As I said in the morning class after Nets, and I said this in the class as well yesterday, that this is the first official Shabbat of the year. That means that we can remedy all the past Shabbatot of the year, and we can set up the stage for the upcoming Shabbatot of the year. It's an unbelievable deal. Usually, when you use the word double dipping, right, it's not a good term. Double dipping means you get from him, you get from him. Like in real estate, sometimes agents do double dipping. Sometimes they negotiate the double dipping, etc. But in this case, we're taking advantage of double dipping because my good Shabbat behavior remedies the past and prepares the future. It's an unbelievable. It's like you pay your credit card bill. What happens? Automatically, your credit line increases, correct? Let's say you owe in a $2,000 bill, you owe in credit line, you owe $1,000, right? You paid $1,000. That credit line goes to what number again? 2,000. The bank says, because you paid 1,000, we're going to give you now 3,000. It's an unbelievable deal. Banks will never do that. Maybe every 6 months, sometimes they entice you, whatever. Okay? But that's what happens this Shabbat. Rabino Ari writes that this Shabbat, make the effort, come on time to the synagogue, say all your prayers the best way possible, dress in honor of Shabbat, make the Kiddush properly, make the Saudah of Shabbat properly, learn Torah, come to the Shabbat Shuba de Rasha, whatever you can do to make this Shabbat a beautiful Shabbat at all different levels, take advantage of this. Because I'm able to fix, which is an unbelievable deal. If somebody wants to fix the credit report, how long does it take? Does it take one day? How long does it take? Months? Years sometimes, right? Guess what? With Shabbat, instant delivery. Better than Amazon. That gives you same day in certain aspects, items. Instant delivery. So therefore, let us do this Shabbat to the best that we can. Mosai Shabbat, according to the Syrian tradition, we're going to be making the third and final Hatarat Nedarim. If you're not going to be Shabbat in this part of town, Sunday morning we give you a makeup. But all the shuls of the world, I think, at least in the Sephardic world, they do Hatarat Nedarim Erev Kippur. Also, Kaparot. Also, Lulav and Etrog. Take care of this today. Why? Morning. Why? Because then you add one more mitzvah in your account. Even though you're not going to receive it till Tuesday or Wednesday, but guess what? You bought it, you pay for it. In Shamayim it says, you took care of the Lulav and Etrog. That's another mitzvah. You didn't take a haircut last week because you forgot you couldn't do it. Do it this Shabbat. You couldn't go to the mikveh before Rosh Hashanah. Go before Shabbat Shuba. Erev Kippur, obviously. Whatever we can do, and how small and baby and insignificant step may appear. Set up the candles for your wife. You should be doing this every week. But let's say you didn't know, you forgot, do it today. And start from today. That's what it says. And I finish with something that I said earlier in the week, but I like to say it one more time because it's very, very powerful. And I'm going to finish. It's a very short Devar Torah. It's actually how do I say this? A lesson learned from one pasuk that we say every Shabbat morning in the Kiddush. This pasuk contains the secret of Kippur. How often do we say this pasuk? Every Shabbat of your life. If you say Kiddush on Shabbat, you say this pasuk. Let me read it, and Be'ezat Hashem will finish with this. And the pasuk from Yeshaya HaNavi, open the Sidur, Shabbat morning after Musaf. The pasuk says, Im tashiv mi Shabbat raglecha, asot hafasecha beyom kochi. If you will stop on Shabbat of conducting yourself like you do every day in order not to do your wills on my holidays. That is the meaning of that pasuk. I gave you the wordy translation. Let's translate it from the Rabbi Israel of Rugin's perspective. And it says, this pasuk ka'e al Shabbat Shuba. This pasuk talks about this Shabbat. שהאדם צריך להתגבר. That a person must become strong this Shabbat. על הטבע והרגילות שהוא רגיל בה. It says, you must break your mold. What does that mean? There are people that come to shul late, Shabbat night or Shabbat day. Shabbat night they come in when the kahal is already saying Kabbalat Shabbat. And that's a halachic problem to do mincha in the room where the kahal is doing Kabbalat Shabbat. The halacha is a person that comes into the synagogue and the kahal is saying, Mizmor leDavid lecha dodi likrat kala. Yani the knis is in Shabbat mode. And this person needs to do mincha. He's not allowed to do mincha inside of the synagogue. He needs to do mincha outside. Why? Because he's creating a spiritual short circuit. That the mood is on Shabbat, and then comes somebody from the left field and is praying a weekday prayer. So what the halacha says, go outside, do your mincha, and then come in for Kabbalat Shabbat. And we're not saying that occasionally a person comes in late to the synagogue. It happens to all of us. You know when is one of my most challenging hours of the week? An hour before Shabbat. The last hour before Shabbat for me is a very challenging hour. Not because I'm not home. I try to be home early enough to do whatever I need to do, to help at home, set up the candles, whatever a normal person does on a Friday. But my phone keeps working till literally 5 minutes before I come to the synagogue. And I cannot afford to close my phone an hour before Shabbat. I cannot. Because always Friday afternoon, I get questions. Mikveh-related questions, pregnancy, delivery, born. Last week I had 2 calls. Baruch Hashem, 2 babies were born. 1 girl and 1 boy. The boy was born last night. The girl was born today in the morning. And the other boy was born Friday, a few minutes before Shabbat. These are 3 questions that I had to deal with. People ask, Rabbi, what do we do? What do we do if contractions? How do we go to the hospital? Can we go in an Uber? Do we call Hatzalah? Do we carry a bag? All these questions pop up. And that's why the halacha writes, interesting that a husband and wife should pray that they don't have to run to the hospital in the middle of Shabbat. But obviously, who can control that? Only Hashem. But these questions come up. Or a lady who needs to go to the mikveh Friday night, and suddenly a halachic question came up. What are you going to tell them? Talk to me on Sunday? That's a big problem. Because, God forbid, what if husband and wife are not careful, and then they do a sin, and she didn't go to the mikveh. Serious, it's not a joke. So I cannot afford to shut down my phone. Obviously, if somebody calls me, Rabbi, are you going to have meals in the Sukkah this year? So the iTorah audience, we're telling you in advance. The answer is yes. You must call the office, make reservations. There is a very nominal fee just to offset some of the expenses. And we're keeping the fee very, very low to give everybody the opportunity. $250 for 8 holiday meals. It costs you more to cook at home. Yeah. You see how much we love the kahal? We do some fun sponsorship on the side. The synagogue picks up a chunk of the expenses, and everybody participates. Full meals. Full meals. 8 meals. So iTorah audience already knows it. If you give me a donation of $5,000, you get a guaranteed table for 10 people through the entire holiday. It's a great, and you have the zechut of helping others that fulfill the mitzvah properly. Somebody asked me, Rabbi, why do the community work so hard on this? I said, very simple. The majority of our membership lives in condominiums. And most of the people don't have sukkah. Baruch Hashem, a handful of buildings have. But to provide sukkot for 300-400 people, we're expanding the sukkah. We may be the biggest sukkah in the southeastern United States. It's close to 3,000 feet. We have valet parking. We pick up the tab for that. Did you ever pay for valet parking at the synagogue? No. You know why we do it? Because we want people to do the right thing. A few dollars more, a few dollars less, Borei Olam sends us miracles. Out of nowhere often. So, phone number of the office, 305-931-4313, extension 4. Reservations are coming in every hour. Non-stop. Non-stop. You want to do 5,000, you don't need to be in Florida to do the 5,000 sponsorship. You can enjoy the cold weather in New York and have mitzvot being performed on your behalf. A beautiful person called me up and it says, Rabbi, I'm not coming to the sukkah, but I want to make sure that I sponsor people that you know from the immediate community, no foreigners or visitors that they landing, from the local community that otherwise will not come. Please put them in my tab. It's an unbelievable deal. No, 5,000. This project costs over $100,000. I have the numbers. So any comment you're going to make, I have the answer. This is not a fundraising speech. I'm only creating an awareness because a lot of people from New York and New Jersey are calling and they are asking, especially this year, Sukkot is a weekend, Shabbat Sunday, full week of Chol HaMoed. And Shabbat Sunday. It's an unbelievable deal. Safra Synagogue in Aventura. Okay, so let's finish. So it gets the great Rabbi Yisrael of Ruzhin, and it says, if a person on this Shabbat Shuba, truly demonstrates their willingness to change. I was saying about coming late to the shul at night. What about coming late to the shul in the morning? You come in the middle of the Sefer Torah, Yani, I'm here. If I come late, I hide. Don't come in like on the place. If there is a Shabbat to enhance this, it says the Bisel of Ruzhin, Shabbat Shuba, Im Tashiv, Now we're going to switch the translation. Basically, it says, if you're going to switch your common behavior that you're usually accustomed to do, and you're going to make a positive change, what's going to be the consequence? You know what God says? Asot hafasecha beyom kochi. I will fulfill your will in my day. As the pasuk, which is the day of God. Beyom kochi, yom hakipurim. As the pasuk says, Benizgav Hashem levado bayom ahu. What is the bayom ahu? Said the great rabbi yesterday, Rabbi Rosenblum. The day of Yom HaKippurim. So we have the solution in our hand. What else do I need to say? I know what I'm going to say now. Shabbat Shalom. תזכו לשנים רבות, גמר חתימה טובה, and I'm not kidding about Sukkot. If you don't tell me that you're going to be with us in the holiday, I'm not a prophet. You got to go to the office, register, pay the very, very low fee of $250 for 8 holiday meals. And it's an unbelievable zechut. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. I'm selling a couple of sponsorship of Sukkot. Thank you. Sí, Rabino. רבי חנניה בן הקשיא אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות את ישראל לפיכך, הרבה להם תורה מצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפש למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.